Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to your Go Further with Microsoft Excel Pivot Tables session today. Now, before we go ahead and get on introduced into all our content today, we're going to talk about some of the, excuse me, we're going to talk about some of the tools that you have at your disposal here within this Microsoft Teams meeting. While I'm going through the session, I would say the preferred way of you all asking questions while the session is going on is to ask questions over here using the send chat messages option with this chat bubble. This is just so that I can keep kind of pushing through all the content and everything, and then we can kind of reserve all the more verbal questions for the end of the session. Or if I need to go back and like cover something, then we can do that there. Now, directly to the right of the chat bubble, we have the raise your hand option. This will probably be for more later on when we are, like I said, in the more open Q&A area of this session. After I've gone through all the content, this is where you can raise your own hand and we can kind of call on you and you can ask your question that way. Now, once you raise your hand and you're ready to ask your question, you can come off of mute using the mute or unmute microphone button. If it has a slash through it, it means you're muted. You should be defaulted to that most likely. And then if it's not, then you are able to speak. Also, just in case when you ask questions, if you want to screen share to kind of show what's on your screen, you can always go to share your screen. Now, a couple other options that you have here within the meeting is going here to the ellipses, which is this 3-dot icon. When you open that, you're going to open this drop-down menu. First thing I want you to notice is up here at the very top, you have your device settings. Your device settings is where you can make sure that you have your correct audio input and correct audio output selected. What that means is that you have your correct microphone or your correct speakers selected. Definitely make sure that both of those are working. We really do try to reserve the chat for questions about the content that's being covered rather than troubleshooting. So please make sure that everything is nice and ready to go for you. Now, all the way down here, we also have turn on live captions as an option. Yes, you have live captions as available to you during this training session. So you can go in and turn on live captions that way too. All right. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about Microsoft Excel pivot tables. My name is Luke Wallace. I'm a customer success trainer from the Microsoft training team in Atlanta, Georgia. And with me, I'm not alone today. I also have Erica with me. She'll be the one answering all your questions as I am kind of pushing on through all the content that we're covering today. And if you hear an unfamiliar voice, it is most likely her. Now today, in today's session, we are going to learn some of the more advanced tools and features in Excel. Pivot tables are a powerful tool to calculate, summarize, and analyze data that lets you see comparisons, patterns, and trends in your data. We also have the option to go into Power Queries, and this is a data transformation and preparation engine. If we have time, we will review ways to analyze and manage the data within Excel and send it to Power BI. That last piece, I'll kind of show like really base features of Power Query Editor and where you can kind of throw that into Power BI if you have access to it. I know that that's a much more advanced feature, but yes. So Excel learns your patterns, organizing your data to save you time. Easily create tables in your spreadsheets and use modern functions. With new charts and graphs, Excel helps you present your data in compelling ways. Easily create forecasts to predict trends with just a click, and you can connect your data to Power BI to create visual data analyses. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on into our demonstration. Give me just a moment here to share my screen. Can you all see that? Erica, can you see that fine? Can you see my mouse?
Yep, you're good.
Fantastic. So one thing to note is that I'm going to keep the mouse kind of small today, or the cursor a bit small today, because I'm going to be navigating through a lot of different cells and a bunch of different menus. And if I have a larger cursor, it's probably going to block a little bit of the content that you're trying to see. So we're going to keep it small, but I have it nice and brightly colored for you today. So let's see here. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do here is take a look at our is our sheet here. Now, what we're going to do within this is that we are going to cover a couple things within this. So what we already have here is a formatted table. If you don't know how to format something as a table, it's really easy to do that. All you have to do is, if this is a blank table, like it's just a bunch of numbers and there's not all this formatting to it, all you have to do is highlight the whole thing. If I can highlight it, there we go. And if you go up here to format as a table, it will format as a table and you can kind of select the different designs and whatnot about it for yourself. Now, just because you have this table formatted and everything does not mean that you are pigeonholed into just having what is already listed here. You can go in and change different aspects of the table. So if I wanted to go in to do that and rechange the name, I just go up here to function and change it. Same thing with gadget and any of these other names here, right? We can also go in and even add more columns if we wish to do so. So let's say we wanted to have an entire row here that is, or an entire column rather, that is essentially like an addition of both doodads and gadgets. So instead of having the only the total of doodads at the bottom and the total of gadgets at the bottom too, we can have everybody's total of both items made. So in other words, I could go here to the uh, let me go all the way to the top. Let me go to G2. There we go. And I'm going to hit equals. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do a bracket. And when you're talking about different columns that you have named within a table, you can go in and actually @mention these different names, and it should grab it for you. So for here, I'll do @doodad. I believe it is case specific, so make sure that you have it correctly typed in that way. And then we're going to close the bracket. And as you can see, it automatically grabs that for me. And then I'm going to hit plus bracket and then @mention, and we're going to go to gadget and then close the bracket. And just like that, I have a new column that is going to be an entire total row for everything within, for each one of these associates or trainers or specialists. So as you can see, 16,154 plus 6,446, and it does equal out to that. And I can go in and rename this column just that easily. You can even go in here to the bottom and expand the total to here. That way you make sure that you have all the numbers that you need. I'm actually going to delete that column just for the sake of keeping things really simplistic when we're talking about our table here, or when it comes to our pivot table that we're going to create in just a moment. So another thing that we are going to talk about here is the ability to create your pivot tables. So I'm going to go up here to insert, and I'm going to select pivot table, and I'm going to select from table and range. And what it's going to ask me is a couple of different things. So the first thing it's going to ask, what table or what range are we grabbing from? And if we go, all we had to do is highlight exactly what we want. So I'm going to highlight this whole thing here. And as you can see, it grabbed everything from that table. Now, then below, it's going to choose where our pivot table is going to be placed. For the sake of us just kind of keeping things clean, instead of using an existing worksheet, I'm going to hit new worksheet right here. And once we do that, all we had to do is hit OK. And as you can see, we have a brand new sheet for our pivot table over here. Now, I'm going to rename this sheet real quick, and I'm going to say pivot tab 1. just so we can kind of keep things a little simplistic in that sense. We can even go in and change the tab color after the fact as well so that we can keep better track of everything. I will color this a red color. Always good to kind of name your different tabs and also possibly even color code them so that people can go in and really start to, and really start to make sure it's all organized and easy to remember where everything is. I'm definitely a person that likes to color code things because if I didn't, it'd be really hard for me to kind of associate certain aspects with others. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to mess around here with our pivot table. So now that we have everything selected as far as like what table we're using, we can go over here to our pivot table fields. And this is where we're going to start playing around with exactly what we can cover within the pivot table. So I'm going to just choose everything first. Actually, let me start really simplistic. Let me do this. Let me do last name and we'll do doodads and gadgets. So right now, what these pivot tables allow you to do is that it allows you to analyze your data in ways that you wouldn't be able to otherwise or as quickly. So whereas you could go into this table right here and you could like filter through everything and you can have all these functions to analyze different aspects. Pivot tables make it to where you can kind of do this on the fly and really quickly and change exactly what you're examining. So the first thing, like I said, is the fields list, and we can select exactly what we're going to be covering at any point in time. So right now we have the last names and the number or the sum of doodads and the sum of gadgets in which they all have created. Now we can get even more detailed and granular with this. We can go in and add title, and we can go in and add location as well. Now, what I'm going to do, as you can see, things are a little bit odd over here on the left-hand side, a little bit hard to read, right? So right now we have it to where the last names are our largest level of filtration or our largest level of categorization. Where in reality, we should probably have title go above it and even location go above that. So at the moment in time, as you can see, it's kind of hard to read, kind of hard to understand. We can go over here and we can go into our fields and we can kind of drag them between each and every one of these boxes. So what I'm going to do is I will actually make it to where instead of last name being on the top, I'm going to have location. It's just a drag and drop. And then I'm going to do title. And then we have our values over here, as you can see. So it's honestly just as kind of simple as that when it comes to organizing these in that sense. But we're going to get a bit more complicated here, or not necessarily complicated, a bit more detailed and a bit more advanced. So we also have the option to add in different filters, for instance. So for instance, instead of location being somewhere within all this, we can take it from rows and we can add location up here to filters. And instead of us wanting to view it in this sense, like we had before, where it's like Chicago and then every associate, every trainee, every specialist, if we throw location up here to filters, we can see all associates, all managers, all specialists, and all trainees. But let's say we only wanted to look at, let's say, Denver. We're going to deselect Chicago and Los Angeles. We're going to make sure that we have this check mark here under select multiple items selected. And I'm going to hit OK. And now, just as quick as that, we have the ability to see all the different, all the different people within Denver and all their numbers associated with it. Really quick, simple, and easy. Another thing that we had the ability to do as well within this, just to kind of even simple things even further, we can go in and hit these plus or minus icons and shrink them down to where we're not even separated by different associates or specialists or whatever they might be, we can just see exactly the sum of everything from each and every one of these people. Just like that. You can even go up here to row labels and we can start to filter out by the exact position that they're in as well. So if I just wanted to do associate, hit OK, there you go. Now we're going to clear out these filters really fast. Do that for ourselves really quickly. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to format our different rows and different columns and cells within this. So what excuse me. Sorry, y'all. Weather's been changing a lot and I've been having to deal with that with my sinuses. So what we're going to have to do here is that we're going to start playing around with our different field settings and such. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to right click on this and we're going to go into pivot table options first and foremost. Now pivot table options, we can rename our pivot table. And with this one, we are going to say pivot table LA CHI and then DEN. Just to kind of name that just for what it is. Now, you do have some options within this as well when it comes to different aspects of what are going to change within pivot tables. You have autofill column widths on update. So if you update your data set from other like the table on the other page, it will autofill column widths on the update and then also preserve formatting on update as well. So anything that we change in here, if we decide to update the data, it will keep formatting across all of this. You can also add accessibility options here within this, like alternative text. This is so that you can describe exactly what the table looks like, what it's describing, what the information means. Once again, this is just more so for accessibility options if people are using things like digital reader and stuff like that. We have totals and filters. We can sort our layout, like I said earlier. Where was there we go. We can also change our display options for everything within here as well. Where's that option that I'm looking for? Give me 2 seconds, y'all. Oh, one thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to layout and format that is actually really pivotal when it comes to pivot tables, no pun intended, is down here we have 4 empty cells show. Right now it's showing blank, and we do want that to happen. This is so that if you have this turned off, it would show 0 instead, most likely. And so or rather it would. And so we like to leave this on so that if there is empty information, we can instantaneously locate it and then have it right there ready to go. All right. Now let's go ahead and go to this row here where we have doodad. So we're going to go to value field settings. So we have this label up here, right? So we have sum of doodad. What we're going to do actually is we're going to rename this because we know that this is the sum. It's a little bit redundant for us to have this labeled as sum of because we already know what this is. So instead of it being labeled as that, we're going to give it another custom name. And we're going to call it doodad. Now, there's going to be a little thing that pops up here. So if I hit OK, it's going to say pivot table field name already exists. So Excel will not allow this name as it is already a field name on the other pivot table tab that we have right here, right? So when you're doing calculations on a field, certain restrictions will apply so that you're not overnaming conventions and like overlapping things. So instead of us naming it that, we're going to name it doodads. But when naming the columns in original data sets, definitely select descriptive names with the knowledge that you may not be able to use that word in the pivot table later on. So if you're naming things in a table on another sheet, do note that whenever you use it there, you cannot use it in the pivot table. This is just so that different naming conventions, once again, do not overlap with each other. Now, I'm going to hit OK. And as you can see, doodads is now the actual name of this. Now we're going to go even a step further into this, and we're going to format this entire column when it comes to these numbers. So we're going to right click this. We're going to go back to value field settings. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to number format. So if we go here to number format, I'm going to go here to number. And what we're going to do is that we're going to use a separator. This is so that we can see exactly where the thousands are. You know, every three numbers you have the comma there. That way you can differentiate exactly what number is where. We're going to have that there, and it gives us an example of what it will look like. So without it, with it, you get the picture. And then we're going to make it to where there are no decimal places. We're only going to deal with whole numbers here. And now we're going to hit OK and hit OK again. And now you can see that we have the numbers here with the delimiter in the middle of it. Now we're going to do the same for sum of gadget as well. So we're going to right click on it, value field settings. We are going to name this gadgets, number format, number there, make it 0. So once again, check mark 0, hit OK again. And we have everything here ready to go. Now, what we're also going to do here is that we're going to make column B a bit wider. Make gadgets a bit wider too. Let's see, we're going to put these in the middle of their rows. And you can also go in and choose to highlight these and format them as you wish. So instead of having them slam to the right side of the cell, we could have them put in the middle. We could put them on the left-hand side. Whatever your heart desires, you can select whichever one you want. I'm going to do it in the middle here. Actually, that's a little bit hard for me to read. I'm going to do it to the right again, because I think that might be the easiest way for me to do it. Yeah. And so there you go. All right. So not only do we have the ability to kind of adjust and format things when it comes to our pivot tables, we also have the ability to change the design of it as well. So we can go up here and we can go up here to design. And under design, we have obviously a lot of different options here. So first thing is that we have different styles. We can hit the drop down of pivot styles, which is right here, and hit that. And we can go in and we can kind of just get a preview of everything that we're wanting to look at. So let me see, which one is probably going to be the easiest for us to read while still changing it. Probably just change it to orange. Yeah, we'll change it to orange. And it's just as easy as that to change your pivot table styles. You can also go in and just highlight and kind of test look at all the things that you want. It's completely up to you exactly what you want to use. Another thing that you can do to kind of operate within this a little bit more and customize it is that you can go in and have different pivot table style options. So you have your header rows, like row labels, doodads, and gadgets. If I wanted to get rid of those, like these highlight colors, I can do that there. We can also get rid of column header colors. We can have banded rows. So banded rows adds physical delimiters between each and every single one of the rows so that we can see things a bit better. We can even have banded columns too. That way we can see things a little bit easier. I might actually leave that on because that actually looks really nice in my opinion. So you can go in and kind of play around with that at your leisure if you wish to do so. Alrighty. And now other things that you can do within here is that you can also go into pivot table analyze, and you have a bunch of options within here too. One thing that we can actually add to this is add slicers to our table. Now you might wonder, why would I want a slicer when I already have this up here for location? Well, let's say you didn't have location, right? Let's say you didn't. And let's say you just wanted quick slicers to take a look at different pieces of information that you wanted to like kind of flip on the fly. We're going to go here to insert slicer, and we're going to select the different slicers that we want to have. So we can go in by location, and we'll even go by title just to kind of show you the two as well. So we're going to hit OK. And these are our two slicers that we've created, just like that. By the way, the way I did that once again is I clicked this table and I went to pivot table analyze. And then I went to insert slicer. And that is how we did it. So now let's click on this slicer. We're going to go up to our slicer options up here at the top. And to just kind of show you exactly what a slicer does to begin with, is that it's basically a filter, a global filter for all your content within your pivot table. So if I just wanted to see content that was exclusive to Los Angeles, there it is. Exclusive to Denver, exclusive to Chicago. And then if I want all of them to show up again, we can have multi-select turned on, and then we can select them that way. Now, if you have multi-select turned on, instead of just picking the one you want to highlight, it's going to get rid of it, as you can see. So like Los Angeles, Denver, and Chicago are selected, but let's say I only wanted Chicago, I would deselect Los Angeles and I would deselect Denver. So do note that when you do that, that's the way it's going to work, where the opposite way is to have one at a time selected. And then you can deselect your filter just like that. And we can do the same here with associates, managers, training specialists, and such. We're just going to do associates since it's the largest of all of them. And as you can see, we have all of our content here, and we have our grand total at the bottom ready to go for us. Real nice and handy. And then also, once again, manager, specialist, trainee. Do note too, you don't actually have to have the multi-select selected in order to select multiple of these. You can actually hold down your control key and select multiple that way too. So if I want trainee and specialist, there you go. Deselect one. Maybe I just want manager and specialist. Just like that. So there's a few different ways that you can do it. One thing that is pretty universal across all M365 programs is that there is always multiple ways to do something. It's just a matter of what is the most convenient to you or what makes the most sense for you and memorable for you to use. Cool thing about these slicers too is that in the slicers you do have style options just like you did over here. So let's say we wanted to match the style options to the table or the pivot table over here. We can do dark, have that selected, and let's do another one for this one, and we're going to make it green just so it's a little bit different. And once again, I can go in and start to adjust and shrink these however I want. It is completely up to you as to how you want all these to operate, be managed, and look. All right. Let me see here. Did I miss anything when it comes to that? Actually, real quick, before we move on into anything else, do we have any questions at the current moment in time? Feel free to come off the mic or anything.
Hey, Luke, not sure if anyone wants to come off mic, but we don't have any in the chat or the Q&A.
Copy that. All righty. Well, in that case, let me see here. All right. So, with all of that being said, when it comes to the pivot table and kind of how you can adjust it and such to your liking. Oh, another thing to note too, actually, really quickly, is that you can use slicers and also have the filters option on at the same time. Hey, it really is, once again, just whatever way works for you the best is the way that you can kind of operate from that. So it like I said, you can do whatever you want when it comes to it. Move your different titles, rows, boxes wherever you need. Add the slicers that you need. Whatever it is, the world is your oyster when it comes to all this. Now, what I'm also going to show off today is going to be the ability to show off things like Power Query Editor. Now, Power Query Editor, to kind of give an example of it, or to give an idea of what it is. Power Query is Microsoft's data transformation and preparation engine. With Power Query, you can easily extract, transform, load your data to other programs, things like Power BI and such. The Power Query editor, with its interactive ribbons, menus, and buttons, assists with the process. When you create a new query, Power Query automatically creates a required M code for you. Once a query has been created, you can refresh the query to include any changes or additions to the underlying data. So basically, you're telling exactly how you want different programs to analyze the data that you're giving it, and how to separate it, how to delineate it, how to interpret it, everything. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to load into Power Query Editor. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to highlight everything over here in this column, or these two columns here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to data. And within data, I'm going to be in this get and transform data. And I'm going to choose from table and range. Now, because I already have something selected, it's already going to have that table ready to go for me so that I don't have to go in and add it myself or manually type it in. Really handy. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now we are brought into Power Query Editor. Now, if you're a person that has ever played around with Power BI, this is going to look kind of familiar to you, or at least Power BI desktop for that matter. Once again, this is just so that you can have this and kind of send it to other programs and such. So to kind of go over the different options here within the layout of all this is that in the middle, you have your what we call your data canvas. And in this, you have your different columns, your different items and such. And we're going to be playing around with a lot of this here in just a moment. And then also up here at the top, we have things like query. Or sorry, let's start with close. So close and apply is going to be where you can close and apply the query. But next to the right of that, you have the query itself. So you have view and interact with it. Manage columns is where you can choose or go to columns or remove a column. You can reduce rows in whatever way you want. You can do sorting. Transform is where we can do things like split columns, change data types, and replace values as well. We're going to be doing one of these in particular. And then we also have combine, which means that you can merge queries or append queries as well. Let me see here. You can also go into your transform tab. Got it. And with transform, you have a plethora of different options to transform your data in a way that you're not necessarily changing the data from the Excel sheet. Like you're not changing numbers or like what the content is, but you're going to be changing and transforming exactly how it's interpreted by wherever you send this Power Query edit or this Power Query off to. Now, with that being said, let's just go ahead and kind of get into this. So, like I said, you have your canvas here. Over here on the left-hand side, you have your different queries. You can have multiple queries at the same time. It's just a matter of you loading in all the different data that you want. For the sake of simplicity today, we're just going to be dealing with one. And over here on the right-hand side is where your query settings pane is. Now, in here, I can go in and rename this query, and I am going to name this product item Saturday. I'm going to put a dash in that too. And then below that, we have our applied steps. Now, applied steps is instead of using things like, like your undo button, applied steps allows you to undo any work that you've done within the Power Query editor. So you don't have to just keep backtracking, or know how to change it or revert things. What you can do is you can just go into applied steps, hit the X mark here, and you can change exactly what you want. Now, what we're going to do first is that over here under count, instead of having decimals, because that's kind of weird for us to have decimals of different items, it's either an item is created or it is not. So instead of that, we're going to go in and we're going to change decimals. Or we're going to change the formatting of it. So we're going to go up here to this number, which is 1.2. And instead of decimal numbers, which is what that label means, we're going to change this to whole numbers. So let's go ahead and hit whole number. We're going to replace current. And you change the type, just like that. Now, another thing that you can do is let's go over here to item. Now, right now it says doodad large, doodad medium, doodad small, and so on and so forth with each and every one of our product items, right? Well, what we really want to do is we want to split these into different columns. We want to have our different products in one column and the size of products in another column. And the way that we do that is by splitting up here. So we have split column. And we do note you have to have it selected. So if you select it and it's highlighted in green, you're good to go. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to under home, under transform, or you can go to transform and go to split column that way, either or. You can access it either way. You can go up here. And then you have this drop down menu of all these options. Now, the one that we're going to choose is by delimiter. Now, by delimiter, that means anything that is like a comma or some other icon that would be something that would divide in a singular column. So I'm going to hit by delimiter. And as you can see, select or enter delimiter. We have commas, colons, equal signs, semicolons, whatever it might be. We're going to leave it as comma. We can have it done by each occurrence of the delimiter, most left occurrence of the delimiter, or rightmost occurrence of the delimiter. With this one, there's only one, so it really doesn't matter. And so I will go ahead and hit OK. And as you can see, we have our product item in one and the size of it in the other. So what we can do here as well is that we can go into this naming convention over here, and we're going to right click on this at the top. Instead of saying item 0.1, we're going to go in and we're going to rename this, and we are going to say product name. And then you can also double click any of the top columns and you can go like that, and then we'll say product size. And just like that, you have all your different parameters ready to go. Excuse me, everyone. All right. So, one thing I'll show off real quick too is that we renamed columns over here on the right hand side, as you can see with the applied steps. And so what I'll do actually is I'll hit X on the renamed columns, and now you can see that they reverted back to item 1 and item 2. And so I'll go back over here and I'll do product name once again, and we're just going to rename this one size. And then it's good to go. Now you can do other things like add different columns from examples, custom columns, invoke custom functions. We're not going to really go too much into that today at all, but you do have these options. You also have the options to change different viewings of these pieces of content. Actually, let me go into view real quick. You can go into view and also inspect different aspects of these pieces of data. So for instance, if we wanted to show white space, we could. White space meaning any dead space within certain cells. So if there's any blank spaces, it would show that. We also have column distribution. Now, what column distribution is that it is showing you exactly how many different distinct items there are and how many of them are unique. So what that means is that there are 4 different, excuse me, there are 4 different product names, right, within this, but there are 0 unique ones, meaning there are no one-offs when it comes to each one of the products. Now over here under count, you can see that when it comes to the number of different products we have 8 distinct different counts of numbers when it comes to these products, and we have 8 unique ones, meaning that there are 8 in here that are completely unique from all other values, meaning that they're the only one. So this is another good way for you to kind of analyze your data, take a quick look at it. You can do this as well, like you can just throw things into Power Query Editor just to view things in this way if you really wanted to. You can also go in and look at column quality to make sure that all your values within each one of these columns are valid, they have errors, or they are possibly empty. Once again, if you are dealing with a very large data set, it can be hard to kind of indicate exactly where your faults are and where your errors, where things are gone. And this is a quick way for you to kind of take a look at that just in case you are missing anything. So with all that being said, we're going to hit close and load. And now we have loaded this over here to our pivot tables.
Hey Luke, before you move on really quickly, someone did ask if you can change medium from being in all caps to match large and small.
Yes, you can. Give me one moment. I'm trying to remember exactly the way you can do that. Let me go back to Power Query Editor. Let me do that really fast. Give me one moment. Let me go back to it. Transform. Where are you? Oh, data. That's right. There we go. All right, let's open this. Let's open this up again. I believe the way that you do it, let me make sure. It's under transform, and I believe it is. There is a way to do it. I'm trying to remember the exact way. No, data type ain't it. I have to say, Erica, would you mind looking that up real quick?
Yep,
If
I am
if you
on
don't
it
mind.
as soon as I figure it out, I will put it in the, chat.
Yeah, because there is a quick way to do it. I'm just trying to remember exactly off the top of my head.
Place values?
Place values. I heard someone say it. Feel as though it's under transform. In the meantime, while we're figuring that out, do we have other questions?
We don't have any questions in the Q&A, but if anybody wants to come off mic, feel free to do so.
And also, feel free to tell me to go over anything that I did earlier as well. If you want me to kind of reiterate it, I'll be more than happy to kind of go over exactly what I did. Feel free to come off and mute as well. I'll also pop open, or I'll exit out of Power Query. Yes, Paula, the recording will be available after this session. Oh, Garver, thank you. I'll go into that really fast. Let me go ahead and go from there. Transform. Format. There it is. And then we can make that. We'll just make it all capitalize each word. Had to have the right one selected. And there we go. Thank you very much, Preston. So to do that again real quick, you select your column. I'll even go over here to product name because I actually like to, I do this typically before I ever go into Power Query Editor, but if I know that I'm going to have the largest categorization of something, like if it's a segment or a territory or whatever it might be, I actually do like to make it all uppercase. That's a personal preference thing for me, but you can go in and do it after the fact too in Power Query Editor if you would like as well. Alrighty, give me 2 seconds, everyone. I want to make sure of something really fast before I say it. um, Erica, do you have the survey ready?
Grabbing it now.
Alrighty. So everyone, Erica is going to put a survey over in the Q&A area. This this survey it does a couple things for us. So one is that there are 3 questions that are rating on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest possible or best possible answer. Those 3 questions are rating me as a presenter. I know that one of those questions seems like it's not about me, but I promise you that it is rating me and my performance. Now, the questions that are after the fact that are more open-ended, those are going to be questions about the content that I was covered. So if you have any critiques or you have any comments about the content that was covered, that is where you would put those comments. So once again, the first 3 questions are on a scale rating of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, and then the questions after are more open-ended. We really do appreciate your feedback. Our trainings wouldn't be what they are today without you all giving your feedback to us, and our team definitely appreciates 10s wherever we can get them. It helps us out a long way. Is our database being a little mean to you, Erica?
Yes,
Give me
it would
2
not let.
seconds. I'm gonna see if it'll pop up for me.
Okay, I actually got it. It just took me a minute, but I went ahead and put that survey in the chat. So if you all want to take a couple minutes just to fill that out.
Fantastic. Might be a lot of traffic on it today. It is like middle of the day, so would not be surprised. Well, if we do not have, well, I'll ask one more time. Do we have any questions? If we do not, I will give you all back a few minutes to your day. Alrighty, well, I will say thank you all so much for coming to this training session today. One thing I like to say at the ending of all my trainings is is that the best way to understand and utilize any program within Microsoft 365 is to just play around with it. It's Microsoft Excel. There's a lot of tools within it. There's a lot of different things that you can kind of mess around with, as I kind of demonstrated today. And really just getting familiar with it and playing around with it is the best way for you to start to utilize it and understand it. Luis, I will, when it comes to the link of the recording, your POC or the POC for your organization to us should be the one that is sending that out to you all. Our point of contact, Brittany, will be handling the recording and everything when it comes to that. So, alrighty. Well, thank you all so much. I'll give you about 4 minutes back to your day. Luis, I do not know off the top of my head. Oh, Brittany's answering. Brittany is our point of contact for you all. I'll go ahead and stop the recording too.